gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors episode 303. Woo. As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard, Chris Saturn.
Hey, how's your internet?
It's working.
Yay.
Great. So good.
It's so good.
We don't really have any housekeeping. You can listen to Cinema Rogues and Board Game Barbarians, which are our Retro Warriors universe shows in the RWU.
It's the Retro Warriors expanded universe.
Right. It's expanded universe because I'm on Board Game Barbarians.
It's true.
But neither of us is on Cinema Rogues. So
But
Cinema
Guy
Rogues
is occasionally here.
Yeah. Cinema Rogues is like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. of the Retro Warriors, and Board Game Barbarians is like another one, WandaVision. I don't follow any of it anymore. My week.
Yes, sir.
I finally have made the executive decision to quit Star Trek Voyager.
Oh, good.
It was a hard-fought battle, but its suckiness finally won out, and I just stopped watching it.
Yeah, I tried so hard. So I was a huge Next Gen fan when it originally aired. Like I was from at least season 4 on, I was anxiously waiting for every new episode when they would air. And so when they announced this whole new network that Paramount was going to run, and it was going to have Star Trek Voyager as its anchor show, I was like, oh shit, I am ready for like full network production quality Star Trek. I'm in, let's go, strap me down, we're going to do this. And like the whole first half of the first season, I was like, this is really dull, but I'm going to keep trying.
Yeah, because to be fair, TNG didn't really get off the ground to like 2.5 seasons, really.
Right? And then
it wasn't bad for those 2.5 seasons, though. And that's the difference.
Yeah. And then finally, I think it was somewhere in season 3 that I finally was like, I'm done with this. I can't keep watching this every week and just not caring. Right. And then I caught a few episodes here and there after that, but it was never the same.
I just can't. I've made it most of the way through season 2, and I'm just like, I don't.
Also, I had a whole week in between episodes to recuperate from them, and then a whole summer in between seasons.
I've been spacing them out. Like I'll watch 1 or 2 a week, and then I'm like, maybe. And I was like, and then finally Netflix introduced a feature that basically shuffle, right? Yeah. So you just hit a button and it just puts something on the TV,
right?
And so I hit it, and immediately it's like Voyager, and I'm like, no. and then I was like, not only no, never. And then I just decided I've broken up with Star Trek Voyager.
Yeah.
I think I might date Deep Space
Captain
Nine.
Janeway.
But I don't.
Did I tell the dumb story on the air about the woman at the Star Trek convention that thought that the sock looked like the Voyager?
Yeah, I don't know if it was on the air. I think it was on an uncut last week. It might have been.
All right. It was just, it's the dumbest thing.
You said it on something.
Yeah.
It was recorded somewhere.
I'm glad it's out there for someone.
Super fans will be able to identify that anecdote. We'll just consider that a soft Patreon plug right there. We'll just leave it at that.
Perfect.
Anyway, that's really it. I'm just sitting around obsessively buying toys on eBay and watching and hating Star Trek Voyager. I got the reason I did have a very busy just 2 weeks. I had a lot of shit happening.
Yeah.
But I also got new pets.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you got rats.
We got rats. My daughter's hamster died a while back.
Poops farts? Or poops turds?
Poops turds died. And she was like, I want to get a new pet. And I was like, not a cat, not a cat, not a cat. And she wanted another small animal. For people that have never owned small animals, hamsters aren't great. They don't like people. They'll put up with people.
Right.
And I was like, she wants a small animal. I don't want to get a cat. Right. Something that lives in a cage that's easy to contain and clean. And I was like, if you're doing a small animal, you got to do a rat. They're cheap. They're very smart. Once you train them, they're very sweet and cuddly. Right. And so we went to a rat breeder and got rats.
Nice.
And so I've been spending many hours per day working on training these rats because it takes a long time to get. Normally, you just do it over a long period of time, but when you have a 5-year-old that's like, please, I want to pet them, you're like, let me make sure they're not going to murder you first. Hold on a minute. So I've been spending a lot of time dealing with rats, doing rat stuff, learning rat stuff, and just standing there at the bars sweetly talking to 3 little boy rats so that they don't bite my kid.
That's good.
So, yeah.
Ironically, just before the show today, I was looking at adoption pictures and thinking, should I get a cat? I think I want to get a cat.
I think you should get a cat.
I've been thinking about it for a while. I just every time.
Although, can I alternatively recommend a rat?
Yeah, I've thought about that too. They are cute.
Rats are great. I've had rats before. I had 2 female rats like
I remember
5
that.
or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
They're really, honestly, if you're going to do small pets, they're very good pets and they're easy and they only live for like 2 years. So even if you don't love it, it's not very long. Because the thing about cats is it's like you're going to be dead by the time that cat dies.
Right. Yeah, the first girlfriend that I got in college had some rats. And one of her, and she got this rat cage used from somebody else, and the door was kind of duct taped shut because it wouldn't latch.
Yeah.
And apparently some incident happened right after her rat gave birth, and one of the babies got some duct tape stuck on its face. And so its face didn't get, fully developed correctly. But it still, grew up and became, a healthy-ish rat.
Isn't that a Dick Tracy villain storyline? Duct tape face?
I think duct tape face, yeah. It's one of the least racist Dick Tracy backstories.
Yeah.
But no, it was still a very sweet and friendly and affectionate rat. It just looked a little different.
Yeah. So really, that's all I've been doing. I'm still playing Yakuza Like a Dragon. It never ends.
Nice. Speaking of, I'm still playing Yakuza 5. It's never ending. Yep. I'm finally to the finale area, and I checked the game time, and I'm 101 hours in.
Oh man!
So I'm averaging
that one, huh?
It's just each area is pretty long. Like each individual area where you play as a different character is they feel about the same length as, say, the first Kiwami, give or take.
Yeah.
Like maybe not quite as long, but there's enough side quests and stuff that it can take about as long. So I'm still kind of rushing some things, and I'm hitting 100 hours, and I'm not through yet. But I'm getting that. It is still entertaining, and anytime I get to any plot points, I am increasingly having to go to Wikipedia and be like, what does this mean in Japan? Okay, is this a thing they actually do in Japan, or is this some dumb shit they're making up for Yakuza? And I'm hit or miss as to whether I'm calling it right. Some of them are things that happen in Japan, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize that. And some of them that I'm like, okay, that's got to be a real thing. Like, oh no, they're making that shit up. That's not real.
Yeah.
But it's still fun. I also picked up Nier Replicant.
How is that? Because I had it pre-ordered, and then this month got so busy and so crazy that by the time the date came, I was like, I'm canceling that. There's no way in hell I'm going to get anywhere near it for months.
So it graphically it looks as good as Automata, at least.
Yeah.
So they did enhance that. It looks really nice. The controls are much more smooth than they were on the PS3 or Xbox 360 version. But otherwise, so far anyway, I'm not very far into it because I'm still primarily focusing on Yakuza. It still feels a lot like that original game. Like the moment to moment gameplay, like the combat was cleaned up quite a bit to make it feel more modern, but it still has a lot of that PS3 era pacing.
Yeah.
And storytelling. So
really it's cleaned up, but not really remake by any means. I mean, and it was always sold as a remaster, but still, sometimes that line gets a little blurry.
No, I actually, Yoko Taro issued a press release the day it came out to say, I want to make everyone aware this is not a remake. I don't even want to call it a remaster because Square Enix just put out that Final Fantasy VII remake, and I don't want to be compared to that.
Yeah, it's just an update. Maybe is a better.
Please remember, this is a version update and nothing else.
Yeah.
But no, it's so far it is good. I am enjoying it. It did the original game, if you've never played it, on the copyright screen before you even get to like the title screen or anything, has a random quote from later in the game, just audio quote, play over the background that is incredibly vulgar and edgelord, and they cut that out, which is good. They let you learn the characters first before you hear them curse each other out. Before you hear someone call someone a fucking idiot over a Square Enix logo.
I'll be honest, a lot of times when I see the Square Enix logo in the last few years, I yell fucking idiot.
A lot of the times when I see the Square Enix logo over the last few years, I feel like a fucking idiot. So it makes sense. But no, it feels good so far, but I'm not ready to pass judgment. I'm definitely not ready to
I know it's a weird game.
Right. I'm definitely not ready to say whether or not it's full price worthy yet. That's my main
that was my other complaint is not complaint. Concern.
Right.
Reason I canceled maybe because it's like $60 for a game that I can still get for $20 and play on my PS3 if I'm really after it. You know.
Can you?
Can you not?
Last time I checked, it was going up in price, but it may have come back down. That was a couple years ago.
I checked 2 years ago, and it was like $19.99 new on eBay in the shrink. I might have old information.
Okay,
I don't know.
Oh no, it looks like it's gone back down to around that area. Though new is not anymore. PS3 new is $50. Xbox new is $45, but used is just over 20 on both. It looks like so. It's not too bad.
Let's knock out some news.
Yes, sir.
First up, the lead developer of Days Gone says, quote, "Don't complain if there's no sequel if you didn't buy the game at full price."
Oh, well, Justin, that's why you don't get to complain about any future Nier games. You didn't buy this one at full price.
He later clarified to say that he appreciates all customers after getting caught in the shitty thing he said, regardless of how much they paid now that he's in the public spotlight.
Right.
We're sorry.
What a dumb thing to say out loud.
Fucking moron. How about this? If you can't afford to sell the game at less than full price, then don't sell it at less than full price. I don't know.
Or maybe
I'm not a fucking mathematician here.
If you made a game that people don't feel justified paying full price for at release, maybe you need to be talking to your marketing department.
Entitled Saturn.
Right?
What was that Onion article today that was like, all games are wonderful deals at every price.
Right.
If Tomb Raider was $17,000, it would still be a great deal thanks to the miracle of video games.
That's pretty good.
Next up, Sega has sold its Western arcade division, Sega Amusements International.
That's concerning.
It's concerning. It's not surprising after them basically bailing on their Eastern arcade divisions.
Right.
Still
concerning.
It's still a little bit upsetting.
But it does look like the new company taking it over will still be like putting Sega logos on stuff and still distributing Sega-like games. So
I know when you say putting Sega logos on things, you mean in a good way. I just imagine them slapping them on like fish and cereal boxes. Sega, we own the rights. Just slamming it out there. PS5 tops sales charts as the fastest selling console in U.S. history in both units sold and dollar sales. Although I bet at least for some reason
15% of those made it to consumers.
I was gonna say for some reason I don't think the active PS5 user base is gonna have the equivalent number, which theoretically it should, right?
Right, it should. I don't know how much of it is still in the hands of scalpers, but my gut feeling is most of it.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, the PS5 situation has not changed at all, and there are for people that haven't looked into it, there aren't just scalpers. I mean, there are lots of scalpers. There are scalping companies that are specializing in the PS5.
And we discussed it previously when they came out to say that they are being judged harshly.
Yes, and we came out to say that we will continue judging them harshly.
Right.
PS5 confirmed. Speaking of, to have the same issue as the PS4 of being unable to load even offline games if the CMOS battery fails and the system cannot connect to PSN.
Sony.
So have fun buying your scalped time bombs, I guess.
What are you doing, Sony?
Let's see. What else did Sony fuck up? Sony retracts previous statement. Will not be closing the PSN store for the PS3 or Vita for the foreseeable future out of respect for how, quote, passionate their fans are about, quote, purchasing classic games on PS3 and Vita. will still be discontinuing digital PSP sales on July 2nd, 2021.
That bothers me. One, that they announced it in the first place bothers me. Two, that they're still discontinuing digital PSP games, because there's several digital exclusive games on PSP. And what bugs me about it is that once they did issue this retraction and decided, no, we're going to keep the PS3 and PS Vita stores open because everybody was really upset with us. All these classic gaming sites and news channels and everything, they all came out and they're like, this is a great move for Sony. We are so happy that they're doing this. This is just great news, and it's so good that they're listening to feedback.
Next week, I'm waiting for them to be like, Sony plans to murder 1 million puppies. And then 2 days later, them come out and say, no, we changed our mind. And then they get praised for saving 1 million puppies.
Well,
this is some Lex Luthor shit. Right? It's not how it works.
What gets me is not only is everybody praising them, but everybody's ignoring the fact that these PSP games are going away. Like this is a serious issue.
It kind of makes me wonder if Sony's marketing team was like, oh, you have to close the PSP store entirely? How about this? We come out and say we're closing all of it, and then we retract it, but then still get rid of PSP games.
People won't pay attention to PSP because the PS3 was saved. But it's frustrating because from a preservation standpoint, this is still concerning. But everybody is praising them because at least they weren't as bad as they originally planned to be.
It's like when Microsoft announced that they were basically killing used games, and then they took it back, and everyone's like, "Good job, Microsoft's amazing." And I'm like, they still had that idea,
right?
They were still gonna do it. What?
And it's good that they're not doing it now, but let's not praise them.
This is some full-on abusive relationship type shit. Right? Where it's like, well, then he quit hitting me. Yeah. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Microsoft has launched xCloud for PC iOS and iPad OS in private beta. iPad OS being separate from iOS is still weird to me. Why wouldn't they call iOS iPhone OS?
I know.
It's just seems strange.
Silly.
Tangent.
I did try it. On my PC, it runs fine. It runs as well as streaming my Xbox to my PC. It's fine. On my iPad, it runs like hot buttered shit. It's not playable. It's really, really bad on my iPad. And I don't know if it's because my iPad is old or something, because I'm running an iPad Mini 4. But that's the only iOS device I have. I can't test anything else. And so from my limited testing experience, it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah. Nier director Yoko Taro says he has a new game in development and he has, quote, no idea how to explain or sell it.
It's par for the course. That's
let me tell you, having played Nier Automata, you didn't know how to explain or sell that one either.
or Drakengard. It really, this is pretty much standard for Yoko Taro. He doesn't know how to sell anything that he is making. I think he just
realized that he has no idea what he's doing. And he was like, oh, guys, I don't know if you know, I have no idea what's happening. We're all like, dude, we knew the whole time.
Have you seen his GDC talk?
No.
It's basically just how to and why to make weird games that people don't like. And it's great. I love it.
Full version of Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown has been found in the source code of Yakuza 6 and Yakuza Like a Dragon. Now, I'm confused. Because I play Virtua Fighter 5 in Like a Dragon. Is it not this same version that they found?
I believe Final Showdown was a revision of...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm playing vanilla Virtua Fighter 5. Like
don't quote me on that, but I believe so. Either that or maybe they just found the source code in there, the actual source code.
Yeah. Discord has ended buyout talks with Microsoft, says it will remain independent and is considering an IPO. So
I'm happy with that.
That's good to hear.
Right.
Yeah. I would rather them remain independent in case I want to bail out of Microsoft in the near future.
Yep.
Apogee Software is relaunched as Apogee Entertainment. Will publish indie games.
They even brought back the voice of Duke Nukem to announce how exciting it is going to be that they are coming back, which is funny because Duke Nukem was published after Apogee renamed themselves to Duke Nukem 3D anyway, after they renamed themselves to 3D Realms, and Duke Nukem is no longer owned by Apogee.
Also, I got news for them. Duke Nukem was not the famous Duke Nukem game. Duke Nukem 3D was.
Right, yeah.
Now, granted, I played and enjoyed the 2D ones, but still.
Right. Well, Apogee was 3D Realms, so they had just renamed themselves to 3D Realms, so they also published Duke Nukem 3D. But,
right, I'm just saying that...
yeah.
Them going back to Apogee, elicits the 2D Duke.
Well,
era.
they don't own the rights to the name 3D Realms. They sold that.
That makes sense. I guess they couldn't call themselves 3D
right.
Realms, but then they don't own Duke anymore.
They do not, because that was sold.
It's all moot.
I think that was sold to Gearbox, wasn't it?
I feel like it was, but then their legal history is so fucked that I really have no idea.
Right.
Tomato and team have released a new English patch for Mother 3 in honor of the game's 15th anniversary. They've also updated the localization tools to make them easier to use.
The neatest thing that they added in the patch was they updated the voice clip. There's a scene, which you may remember in Club Tittyboo, when you play Stone Sheet Clippers with the guy from the band, which is just rock, paper, scissors. And when you do... Right. The guy and Lucas both go ready, set, go, or something like that. Yeah. And it actually had a voice clip for it in the Japanese game. Well, somebody went on Twitter and tweeted the lady that does the voice of Lucas in Smash Brothers and said, "Hey, could you record this?" And she did, and they edited it into the game. So now it has Lucas's English voice recording the clip for it. So that's really neat.
Nice. Sony to announce PlayStation Plus Video Pass, the Netflix of movie streaming. The future is here. Sony has come to save us from video game consoles that work. Old, boring, blocky-looking video games and all that other shit they keep fucking up. The ability to purchase stuff.
Yeah, this is just a movie streaming service that is tied into PlayStation Plus.
Doesn't Sony already own a movie streaming service?
Do they?
Don't they own Crackle?
I don't know.
I think they own 90% sure they own.
At the very
Crackle.
least, they own part of it.
I think Crackle is like Sony presents Crackle.
I think they either just bought or just sold Crunchyroll. I don't remember.
Did they own Crunchyroll? Jesus.
I think they just bought it, if I remember right.
Super Potato has opened its own eBay shop for international sales. Which,
oh man,
welcome,
have you looked at it?
Welcome to the world of eBay. How overpriced is it?
Oh, so overpriced. It's like eBay sales plus 80%.
I that as soon as I saw that headline, that my first worry was that they're going to be like, we're Super Potato, people will buy from us, we can jack it up, and it's like,
and they're only selling Famicom carts so far.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Fujifilm announces Instax Mini Link, an app to allow printing from select Switch games like Animal Crossing, Pokemon Snap, and Super Mario.
It's basically a new Game Boy printer, but for Switch.
I'm excited. I wish it wasn't $100, but you know.
Well, that's probably pretty close to what the original one was after inflation.
I imagine so, probably.
Yeah. And it was black and white stickers.
Jim Ryan at Sony says the PS5 generation will have even more exclusives. Although for that to be true, you technically only need to have one more, and then you won't have lied. So
that's true.
Just tempering expectations.
Yeah.
Itch.io or Itch.io, I don't ever know how to pronounce this. I think it's Itch, and the website is itch.io, has added their launcher and storefront to the Epic Games Store. For why, I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. But, you know, if it's bringing more attention to these little indie games, then sure, whatever.
Cool. Yeah, because I found some really cool stuff on there.
Right.
Cyberpunk 2077 is officially CD Projekt Red's biggest game ever. Board members are getting huge bonuses in the $4 to $6 million range, while employees say their bonuses were cut due to issues at launch. Gee whiz. After CD Projekt Red came out and said, wait, whose fault was the shitty launch? Oh, they admitted it was the executives' faults.
Right.
And then those executives are getting bonuses, but then the QA people are fucked.
Weird.
Although in my head, the QA would never get a bonus anyway because they're only the ones that do like tons of work.
Yeah.
So CDPR, why?
Why are you guys doing this to yourselves?
It's, you know what it feels like? It feels like the news finally died down about how shitty they've been lately. And they're like, hey, nobody's talking about us. Hey, cut everyone's bonuses. Like, Evercade is making. Yeah, raise mine. No, up. Theirs down. Evercade is making a console called the Evercade Versus that will accept their cartridges. That's a weird
pretty
way
stoked.
to write that, but
yeah, I'm pretty
yes.
stoked that they've made a home console for what was their portable.
It's pretty cool.
I'm not necessarily ready to buy it, but I am more interested in it now that it hooks up to a television.
I keep almost getting one, but it's not quite in my ballpark yet.
Right. Just a little bit cheaper.
Just not quite there.
Yeah.
If it was a little bit cheaper or just a little bit nicer, because I've watched a lot of reviews and people are like, it's okay. It's not like the greatest build quality. It's not the greatest device you're going to use. You know, it's just
not the
like
best
okay.
library. Yeah.
And that's like, it's got to go one way or the other. Either get a little cheaper or get a little nicer. You know, yeah. Maybe.
Right.
Konami celebrates the 35th anniversary of the Konami Code with a 33-minute collection of lo-fi Gradius tracks available on YouTube.
I don't know what Konami's doing, but you know what? It's kind of cool. Whatever.
I think Konami just has a big dartboard. And at the very center, it says video games. And then all around the outside of it, it's just random shit. Yeah, like tweet about Silent Hill, make more pachinko machines, erotic action pachinko slot machine, and they just throw a dart, and then every now and then they hit the middle, and they're like, mini console. You know,
you guys remember video games?
Bonk on Wii U 2 years after the Wii U died. I don't know. Let's fucking do a video game. But without further ado, let's get into our topic at hand, which is related to the Konami Code.
Yes.
And that is cheat codes. And for people that don't remember, long before Call of Duty cheat companies were buying Ferraris and being busted by the feds, cheat codes were a cool thing you could do to make games easier.
Yeah.
The long ago, the before times, they weren't just like a silly joke people made in a video game.
Yeah, it didn't just give you an Easter egg to reward you for remembering the code.
Right.
It actually made the game easier.
As far as scope, we have specifically covered cheat devices in a previous episode. So we will probably mention them here. Right. But if you want to hear us talk about the Game Genie, Game Shark, Action Replay, etc., probably go listen to that episode that I assume was recorded like 90 years ago because it feels like everything was.
I have the episode number listed later on, so it's fine. We'll tell you the number later.
Yep. We'll give you the information you want, but you gotta listen to us talk about stuff first. Just welcome to podcasts. Nothing is cataloged. You just gotta listen to hours of audio.
Yep. You want to search the Google machine? Go to town and won't tell you.
As far as first encounters, I used cheats prodigiously as a kid. And I still rely on them very heavily today when trying to complete games for the show, for example.
Right.
I had a little crayon box that was full of all the cheat codes and passwords I knew.
Nice.
And I used it constantly, along with, and I had a Game Genie, and I only had a Game Genie for the NES. I didn't even know cheat devices existed for the Super Nintendo. It would have blown my mind open. Because I remember as a kid thinking it was only even possible on the NES because the NES was so simple by comparison.
Right.
Because I didn't know how it worked. When I got a bit older, I used a Game Shark on my Game Boy Color a ton, and I wish I had kept it because they're stupid expensive now. So I've kind of always been a fan of cheating as an accessibility option, and as a way to experience games in new and interesting ways. A lot of times, cheats would extend the useful entertainment life of video games that we maybe rented or bought and we played and we're like, all right, we're done with it now. You could go in there and just slam out random Game Genie cheats and see what happens, or find some new way to play,
just
or
watch shit get broken.
And so it added a lot of accessibility, playability, and it made it so that I played many, many, many more games than I would have ever played without the ability to kind of spend more time with them by way of cheat codes.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. If it weren't for cheat codes and passwords, there are so many 8-bit and 16-bit games that I never would have finished. Probably wouldn't have even gotten close. But yeah, I've always loved the idea of being able to cheat or sequence break, and I understand the idea of wanting to do it the legit way. And there are plenty of games that I want to do the legit way, and I want to do it that way every time. But I like having the option at least.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just because I'm bad at games, which I am. But it's also because I just like seeing shit get broken, and a lot of the cheat codes or sequence breaks or cheat devices or whatever, they don't intentionally break the game, but they give you the tools necessary so that you can put the game in a broken state, and I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's just kind of go through the different types of cheats, because this is a very broad category.
Right.
One of the probably most well-known types is hidden shortcuts and advanced strategies.
Right.
So this might not really be thought of as cheating today.
Right.
It was a long time ago.
Oh yeah. It was. If you told somebody, "Oh, well, I used the warp zone," that was cheating.
Yeah.
You instantly cheated.
Yeah. But yeah, so level skips, warp zones, hidden shortcuts, things that were workarounds, basically.
Right.
Anything that kept you from playing the game, not even as it was intended, because many of these
are
cheats
built in,
and warp
right.
zones. Like, I can't imagine they thought the warp zone in Mario 1 it was actually hidden, any of them, really.
The first time somebody showed me where that warp zone in 1-2 was, it blew my fucking mind. I was like, how could anybody ever think to look there?
But obviously these things were programmed in for players to find.
Right.
They were in, for the most part, intentional level skips.
But a lot of them are kind of rewards to advanced players.
Right.
So if you already know how to play the game well enough that these early levels would be boring to you, you have a way to jump to where the action is closer to your skill level.
Right. Most definitely. And I think about things like any warp zones in NES games were everywhere.
Oh yeah.
I think a lot about also games like Tower of Druaga
Mm-hmm.
that had lots of warp zones.
Oh, yeah.
They were weird and hard to get to, but they were definitely there.
Yeah, also stuff like Gauntlet, there was frequently the skip ahead to whatever level exits.
Kung Fu Heroes had warp zones,
All right.
I believe. Famously fantastic game, Kung Fu Heroes.
Is it?
That's yes. I maintain that it is.
Huh. How about that?
I only know one other fan of the game in my life, and it's my brother.
Oh,
So-
just the two of you.
yeah, that's enough.
Okay.
We had started a club, and you're not invited, so just get over it. These type of things still are definitely found in modern games.
Sure.
I think of a lot of things like speed running techniques,
Right.
and things like it makes me think of Dark Souls a lot, because in Dark Souls, the first time you play it, you encounter, and I remember the first time I played it, every enemy I saw, I'm like, all right, I got to stop and fight this enemy, because even the little shitty enemies in this game can kill you real easy.
Right.
And then I watched an experienced player play, and they just fucking ran past like 90% of the whole game. And they were like, just don't stop running. And eventually you make it to the next thing. And I was like, oh, duh. But, it's that same kind of thing where it's not immediately obvious, and it's not the way the game presents itself to be played.
Yeah. And it's certainly not the way that a new player would think to approach it.
Right. So this one's kind of a fudge, because
Yeah.
maybe not necessarily a type of cheat.
Though in maybe a competitive or speedrunning sense, it could be seen as a cheat.
Right.
If your objective was to do everything the correct way and you instinctively went to this, you might not be able to compete there.
And I know there are types of speed runs that are like ones where they don't skip any content. I don't
Right.
know the name of it because I don't know enough about speed running, but I've seen them before where it's like,
Like
we did
100%
Mario,
run.
no warps, and that kind of terminology. Next we have actual cheat codes, which are probably the type of cheat that most people have in mind when they mention cheats.
Right.
These are pre-programmed into the game by the game's original programmers, They are in the early days. They were often included to help media and QA testers and designers test and play through the games more easily, or access advanced features or areas that would otherwise take a long time to get back to in the testing phase.
Right.
And we have quite a list of examples that we're going to go through. Obviously, the most famous video game code of all time has to be the Konami code.
Right.
I feel like more people...
You can get it on T-shirts now. You can get it on mugs.
I was watching Kaiju Big Battle last night, and they referenced it while announcing the wrestling match. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
It
has
not
permeated away from its source and become just a pop culture thing.
Yeah. Not only did they reference it, they said that, I can't remember the exact phrasing, but they're basically like, he's going to up, down, left, right, BA all over that guy's face. And then the other announcer goes, well, it won't work because he didn't also press start and select. and that's what fascinates me about the Konami code, is that it's not even that it's such a famous code, it's that it's remembered in its totality.
Right.
And it's just a long sequence of inputs.
Yeah. And for years there, I always heard it referred to as the Contra code, which...
Yes, I heard it called that as well.
Which isn't even where it came from, but it is in Contra.
It did. Originally, it appeared in Gradius on the NES.
Right.
And it was added to the game for testing purposes by Kazuhisa Hashimoto, who said, I couldn't beat the game easily, so I put in the code. Right. And then obviously, it appeared in Contra, is the 30 lives code in Contra.
Yeah. And many Konami games on the NES use the code.
Right.
So.
Right. Tons of them. I would say probably most of them.
Yeah.
Interestingly, Konami got wise to the fact that its code was found out, because this one doesn't seem like it was intended to be found by players.
Right.
As compared to something like the Mario Warp Zones, where they're like, yeah, players will probably find it. Some players. I can't imagine they would have thought it would have stayed hidden, you know. But this one, you could tell they were like, oh, they figured out that code we left in. Oops. And a lot of later Konami games would punish players for entering the code.
I don't even know if it's necessarily they didn't. I know that they didn't intend to leave it in the production version of Gradius. They've gone on record as far as that goes.
Correct.
But definitely on the later games, I don't think that it was intended to be a secret anymore. Like they knew people were in on it.
Once the cat was out of the bag, and I think that's why they put in these punishments. There are. I can't remember.
Gradius 3 is the one that got me.
That's
first.
The one. Is that the one where you put the code in and it gives you all the power ups, and then 5 seconds later
blows
you explode?
No, it's not 5 seconds later. It's the second you unpause. like you pause the game, you put in the code, it gives you all the power ups, and then you unpause and blow up. and I have to. It's a very tongue in cheek thing to be like, oh, you thought you knew what you were doing. But it's clever and it's cute. And I give him credit for it, even though it pissed me off so bad in 1992.
And that is such an interesting thing to touch on, which is it is a way for programmers to speak directly to players in a special way, you know, because a lot of times, especially video games today, when everything is so separated out, like script writers and marketing and QA and designers and programmers and sound programmers are also separated out.
And there's 300 people that work on a game.
That this is specifically the programmer, the guy sitting down writing the code, or gal sitting down writing the code, that is speaking directly to the player by way of these cheat codes. Like, hey, I know you're going to try to put that thing in, and I anticipated that, and it's an interesting type of communication. Right. That I feel is very unique,
and that kind of
video games,
that kind of tongue-in-cheek punishment of the player, you saw that pretty often in stuff like LucasArts games and point-and-click adventures. So seeing it in a side-scrolling space shmup on Super Nintendo was not exactly expected.
In it again, being the most famous cheat code of all time, it's been referenced or used to perform hidden actions by Netflix, Overwatch, Google Hangouts, Twitch, Facebook, the Bank of Canada.
There's so many public facing websites and also toys and gadgets and shit that have used the game or the code. There was that children's toy recently. I think it was a little Fisher-Price fake game controller that just made different noises when you hit different buttons, and if you put in the Konami code, it made like a special music song or something. It's just it's frequently referenced.
Then we have one that I've never heard of.
Oh.
Never heard of this one.
This is also somewhat of a meme. So back in Colossal Cave Adventure, which is basically the progenitor of PC adventure games, there was a secret word that you learned to travel between areas, which was XYZZY. And it wasn't even really a secret in the game. It was something you needed to learn to finish the game.
Right.
But it became a meme, and it ended up being used as a cheat code in tons of PC games in the 80s and 90s. Immediately stuff that I was able to remember, stuff like Zork, Minesweeper, Deus Ex, Road Rash. And also it like the Konami code, it would show up as an Easter egg or cheat on websites, applications. There are operating systems that if you try to put it in as a command, it'll throw back a catty remark at you.
Yeah.
So it's also one that maybe was less universally known as the Konami code was, but within that PC gaming scene of the 80s and 90s, it was just as meme worthy as the Konami code was.
Right. You have NBA Jam, which was just chock full of cheat codes.
It was a cheat code simulator that happened to have a basketball game attached to it.
But yeah, there were tons and tons of hidden characters in that game.
Yeah.
There were tons and tons of cheat codes. It was nuts.
Yeah, just tons of stuff.
You have the continue code in Super Mario Brother 1, which isn't that you just hold select and push start?
Yeah, I believe so.
Is that it?
Or no, you hold A and press start. Hold A.
And the continue codes are kind of their own special like subset of codes, because you saw that a lot, especially in NES games where you would hold B and press start, or hold select and press start to continue even though you were out of lives.
Right.
Which I imagine was probably started as practice for developers,
QA
programmers that were working on the game.
Right.
You have GoldenEye, which is interesting in that the cheat codes are just in their own menu, just called cheats.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that and being like, excuse me? The game's just acknowledging that it has cheat codes? I just go in there and turn them on?
And that's not the first time that a game had done that.
No.
But it was one of the biggest games that
I feel like it was a pretty big early example of that.
I remember some NES and Super NES era games that had like a codes menu.
Right.
But GoldenEye was definitely one of the biggest early ones, and it had a ton of cheats that ranged from very useful to very ridiculous.
And I think that's why I love the cheats in GoldenEye so much is Donkey Kong mode and paintball mode and just silly stuff.
Big Head mode was a big one. Yeah.
That went outside the realm of just infinite lives, infinite health, infinite whatever, all the guns.
Right.
It turned into, again, that unique language of the programmers getting to, have that dialogue with the players of look at this other weird stuff you can do to kind of mutate our game.
Look at this dumb stuff we figured out during development. Now you can also see how dumb it is.
I don't remember if it had it, but did Perfect Dark have a similar cheat code menu?
I honestly did not spend much time on Perfect Dark, so I cannot
remember
speak to that.
if it did or not. You have the GTA series, which lots and lots of very input-heavy cheat codes in that one.
Plenty of
very
ways to
long
make
cheat
tanks
codes.
fall out of the sky on you and stuff.
Yeah. You have the Sonic series debug modes, which you get input codes to go to the debug mode and just basically zip around the game and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You have the blood code in Mortal Kombat 1.
Oh, yeah. That was super, super well known at the time. And the game very not so tongue-in-cheek even spells it out for you, because that first screen when you first turn it on says a code can mean many things. It could be a code of honor. It could be a code of blah, blah, blah. And then at the bottom it's like, it could even be a way to cheat something. It was just like so dumb and ridiculous. So it was very obviously telling you this is where you put in that code that you heard on the playground. This is where you get the blood to happen.
What's interesting is, wasn't the blood removed because they were nervous about legal recourse?
Right. And on the Super NES version,
very obviously.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Super NES version did not have any blood in it, no matter what.
Correct.
The Genesis version. Right. The Genesis version defaulted to the sweat, and you had to put in the code to get the blood. But the code was so well known, like every major gaming magazine had already published it before the game came out. Like going into Mortal Monday, we all knew exactly how to get to the blood on the Genesis. We were ready for it. Yeah. And then the game just basically saying, this is the screen that you do it on. It was very weird.
You have Doom. The cheats in Doom were originally programmed into the game by Dave Taylor. And I mention it because Doom really kind of inspired its own genre of Doom clones.
Right.
And the majority of them either used the exact same codes or used very similar codes.
Recent Doom clones like Call of Duty and Halo don't do it anymore.
Yeah, the new Battlefield 5 Doom clone doesn't have, IDDQD or IDKFA. None of that works. I plugged a keyboard into my Xbox and I didn't get the invincible gold eyes.
These new Doom clones suck, man.
Yeah. The Sims had Rosebud.
Right.
In fact, most Maxis games had cheats of some ilk.
Oh yeah. All the sim games of that era were just loaded down with cheats that you could use.
Yeah. And you have lots of PC games. Basically, cheating was very much a part of PC gaming and PC gaming culture, more so than it seemed like it was even on consoles.
Right, especially during the 90s. That
presumably just because PC gaming was so open by the fact that you have access to the installation files that they probably just kind of realized, like, hey, they're going to cheat anyway. Let's at least make it fun.
Yeah, and also a lot of the games had consoles built in. A lot of the games, especially stuff like Warcraft and StarCraft, already had text input menus so that you could talk to your other players. So might as well use that to do something stupid.
Yeah. But let's talk about a different type of cheating. This is memory editing.
Yes.
So this is the method that devices like the Game Genie use, which we discussed way back in episode 57. There's the number for you.
That was a long time ago.
Wow.
Like 5 years ago, man.
In essence, they simply alter the variables of a game in memory as it is running.
Yeah.
This can be very effective, but also often has unforeseen consequences. Yeah. I remember I had a cheat code in on my Game Genie to beat Ninja Gaiden, and I had finally beat it, and I turned on, I think it was Infinite Health. And because I was at, I play through, I get all the way, right to the end, and I don't, I think I had a cheat to, start near the end. I must have had one.
Yeah.
So because I remember what happened is I had played the game and I couldn't get past Area 6 or whatever it is.
Right.
And I turned it off and I was like, I'm just going to put in a cheat code. And I found one that's take it to the end of the game, give you infinite health. And I was like, cool, that's the 2 I need.
Yeah.
And I put it in and I get to the end of the game and I beat the last boss.
Yeah.
And those games do, when you beat the boss,
it counts down your health.
Starts counting down your health to finish the level for me to see the final cutscene. That I'm all amped on. I'm like, I did it, and it just keeps counting forever. And I was like, oh no. In my head, it couldn't have been an infinite variable. It probably was just some arbitrarily large number.
Right. But if it's editing the memory, it could be continually changing it while it's counting down.
Yeah, so that didn't work for me. And I do remember struggling to find the Game Genie cheat code combination that would allow me to still finish the levels, because I think it also counts your time down.
Right.
Still finish the levels, but not get stuck in a loop at the end of the level.
I found a YouTube video recently where a guy actually deconstructed by looking at the source code of the game to find the perfect Game Genie codes to make the game easy. Like if you fall in a hole, you just jump right back out, and your health is doesn't decrease, but it will still at the end of a level and stuff like that. It's just very weird.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. Most emulators natively support this type of cheating, because when the game's running, you have access to the memory of the system on an emulator, and that's really all a Game Genie is doing is accessing memory values and replacing them with different values. It's not editing the source code or anything. No. Of course, I imagine it was when I was a kid. I was like, it's like reprogramming the game. And I remember people warning you that the Game Genie would damage your games. And that seemed feasible, because in your head, you're like, well, it's changing the game.
Right.
So obviously, but in reality, it's just loading different variables in memory is all it's doing, which is totally safe, by the way.
I remember when I had a PS1 Game Shark, and it came with a book that actually encouraged you to make your own codes. and it showed you how to try to test things in game to see what was being edited and so that you could edit your codes. And it took forever to do anything. And I finally came up with something that I thought was going to work for me on, I think it was Final Fantasy VIII. And I was trying to like give myself infinite magic so I wouldn't have to keep drawing forever. And whatever it was that I had changed when I went to go save, something went crazy and it just decided to fill up my entire memory card.
That sucks.
Yeah.
You want to have a tester memory card for PS1 game shows.
Right? It was a bad idea.
Cheat Engine, which is the very popular cheat program on PC these days, still does the same thing. It edits variables in memory.
Oh, yeah.
And you can
so
go in there
helpful.
and isolate variables yourself, change stuff on your own. It's a lot easier than using a Game Genie.
Right. Or you can find a cheat table where somebody's already done all the work for you. You just check boxes.
The next one you have is code injection, which is what young me thought the Game Genie was doing. It's similar to memory editing in that it is editing something, but it actually alters the game's code to be something different. And this wasn't something we really had the ability to do on most games, because normally we don't have access to the code.
Yeah. And we were playing off of read-only media.
Yes, our friends across the pond where microcomputer games were much more popular. It's kind of a different story. A lot of microcomputer games were programmed in manually. They would come in magazines or little pamphlets and whatever, and you would program in your own games into your microcomputer.
I've still got a C64 book that tells me how to program a couple of games.
So you could change the code as you played and as you programmed it in. And for a lot of people, that was some of the fun. And a lot of early programmers got their start programming in games and realizing, hey, I don't have to program it like the book says. I can change it. Yeah. But also a lot of microcomputer games just had the source code on the disc.
Right. Or cassette.
Or whatever it was, and you could just copy it and then edit it from there.
Right. Not that they made it easy to do that.
Right. The end result is pretty similar to memory editing in that you make the game behave differently by way of altering, some code or some variable within the game. You have saved game editing, which has existed for a long time because cartridge dumping devices have existed for a long time, but it really became more commonplace in the age of emulation.
And also in the PS1 era, I remember the Dex drive that was put out for the PS1 that let you back up your save files. It was shortly after it came out that people had already written utilities that would then let you load up those save files and change variables on certain games if it knew what the variables were. So you could edit your save file and then dump it back to your memory card, put it back in your PS1, and have, infinite money or whatever you wanted.
Right. And it's just like it sounds. It's editing the data of your save file, because for a lot of games, you don't really have access to a lot of the game's data, but the save files are very often just readable and writable data because they have to be by virtue of being a save file.
Right.
The next two we probably should have lumped into our earlier category, but they stayed down here, so I'm going to say them anyway. It's unlockables, so specifically codes that unlock new content. So like the Mortal Kombat Blood code, Akuma in Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, jumping straight to the second quest in Legend of Zelda, the Justin Bailey code in Metroid, that type of stuff.
Right.
And then also probably should have been lumped in earlier is passwords, which are not cheats per se, but are often used as cheats. So, obviously games that don't have save memory would, whenever you turn the game off, they would often give you a password to continue from where you left off.
And some companies deliberately put cheats into the passwords menu. So if you put in a certain thing, it would unlock some cheat code or whatever.
Which is what the Justin Bailey code in Metroid was. But what's interesting is that if you play enough of a game and play around with it enough, it's not too hard to kind of start altering your password to sort of turn it into your own personal cheat code.
Or just getting a password from somebody else would let you skip half the game.
Yep,
it's not cheating in the traditional sense, but it still would be a way to not have to play through the game.
Yeah. So that's every type of cheat that's ever existed in totality, comprehensively covered. We never have to...
Fortunately, we never forget to cover anything. Ever.
Yes, never, ever. I do want to talk about cheats in books and magazines. the video game publishing industry was heavily reliant on cheats, tips, tricks.
Oh yeah.
Things like that. Video game tips generally went right along with cheat codes in magazines.
Definitely.
Nintendo had its classified information section of the magazine for a very long time. Some magazines were completely centered around just dishing out cheat codes. Reviews were almost treated like this secondary or even tertiary thing. Like walkthroughs and cheat codes and passwords would be at the fore of a magazine or any video game publication.
Oh, yeah.
And then they'd be like, oh, yeah, also this is what we thought about Fester's Quest.
And that was
in the bag.
That was why I kept Nintendo Power for so long, because like 60% of the magazine was strategy, tips, cheat codes, comics, and then at the end was like, oh, and here's what's coming soon, and then after that it's a couple reviews, and anyway, we're done now.
And if you read any old reviews in old gaming magazines, like I do a whole lot, you'll start to be like, why do these reviews suck so bad? And it's why the magazines that had good reviews, good reviewers, and good review systems were so praised. Because most magazines, they're like, I don't know, say what you thought about it. And that was it. Even some of the big ones, you'll go read like a big review for a big game and you're expecting 6 pages of review coverage because that's what life is today. It's just one big review of life and it's on YouTube with ads for your pleasure. But back in the day, it would be like the biggest game of the year would get a third of a page.
Or a paragraph where they would be like, it had some pretty good graphics and I like the way it sound. And in short, I really enjoyed Super Metroid.
I had a lot of water, perfect 5 out of 7, good game. And then they'd be like, anyway, here's 15 pages of how to beat Bubsy. And things like Tips and Tricks magazine had several image-free pages in each issue that were just a spreadsheet of cheats and strategies.
Yeah, it was like 30 or 40 pages in every single issue of like the last 5 years worth of games. Just here is all the codes and some quick strategies for all of them.
It does seem weird how much of video game publication just reads like a phone book. When you really get right down to it.
And Tips and Tricks being the one that did that is the weirdest one. That's what always got me, is Tips and Tricks is the one that is mostly text-based with only images in the first 20 pages or so. And that's the one that's published by Larry Flint. Like the guy who is known for printing a lot of pictures.
Oh, I only read it for the articles, so I wouldn't know that. Several publishers took advantage of the trend. You got totally unauthorized Nintendo cheat codes, unlicensed Sega cheats books, Jeff Rovin's famous How to Win at Nintendo Games books.
Volumes 1 through 1,000.
Which, oh my God, what a fun, useless book to read.
Yeah, I gave you all my Jeff Rovin books, didn't I?
And they're useless. I've read them many times. They provide no meaningful information. They're like, how do you beat Milan's Secret Castle? Well, the first trick is to be good at it and know where the stuff is. Good luck. Bye. I'm Jeff Rovin.
Yeah. I remember there were several games. I can't remember any specific games, but there were several games where I'd go to the strategy section and be like, this is a great game and you'll really enjoy playing it. First, you're going to want to press the start button on the title screen in order to start the game.
And you're like, okay, doing it step by step. And then he's like, anyway, play through the rest of the game. You're like, you stop. It's like draw the rest of the fucking hour. Right? You're like Jeff Rovin.
It's like, in level 7, you'll find a pickup underneath the 3rd stairs. Like, wait, hold on. How did we get to level 7? And what the fuck is a pickup?
I tried to play through Double Dragon 2 with my Jeff Rovin book, and it made it worse. I was like, it is harder with your advice. Jeff Rovin, why? I think the real answer to the rhetorical question on the cover, which is, how do you win at Nintendo games? And he says, well, you win at Nintendo games by not using this book, and I'm going to teach you why you shouldn't be using this book by being useless for 250 pages at a time.
For several volumes.
Jeff Rovin, if you're out there, please come on the show. My God. I would love to have Jeff Rovin on the show.
I just want to know why, Jeff. Why?
I promise we won't hammer you.
We will a little.
A little bit. I'll be like, come on, man. Double Dragon 2, you did not help me at all. You just said to punch him. So cheat books, code books, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
were massive, massive business.
Oh, yeah.
For many, many years, well into the early 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say it was probably the Wii era before I stopped seeing tons of cheat books being published.
Right. And then, even then, it was only because of the internet.
Which brings us to the moral implications. And I did want to include this.
We're sitting here talking about rope-a-doping Jeff Rovin, and they're like, well, let's get to the moral implications.
The moral issue. Can we talk about the moral implication?
Yeah.
Video games used to be conquered. They were seen as an obstacle that you would overcome,
and
by
some people
any
still
means
see them that way.
necessary, like an illness. This meant that cheating, especially with built-in cheats, was not only seen less negatively than it might be today, but it was often considered necessary to the completion of many titles. When you said, "Oh, I beat Contra last night, it was fun," no one assumed you beat it without the 30 lives cheat.
No.
They were like, "Oh yeah, good thing you remembered the cheat code, because how the fuck would you do it otherwise?"
Did you use a Game Genie? No? How?
You should have, you idiot. It was this thing of like, if you beat a game and then you were telling someone, today, if you beat a game, like if you played Dark Souls and you're like, "I beat Dark Souls," and they're like, "Yeah, but did you use this cheap method to beat it?"
Right.
And you're like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Well, then you didn't really do it."
Yeah. I distinctly remember hearing somebody, I must have been in 4th or 5th grade, and I heard somebody talking about Castlevania 3, and they were like, "Oh, I finally beat Castlevania 3," and the guy he was talking to was like, "Well, did you use the help me code?" And he said,
"Yeah."
"No, what's that?" And he says, "It would have been way easier if you used the
it's
help
like
me code."
it's this thing where it's like it's not just like not only not frowned upon, but it's like, you didn't use a cheat. What are you, dumb?
Right?
Like, it was like, are you too dumb to use the cheat? So as a kid, no one even really asked about cheating.
Right.
It was just assumed that you cheated where necessary. And the act of tracking down and using codes and cheats and cheat devices was often considered a skill in and of itself back in those days. Cheats were kind of this, maybe not secret knowledge, but this knowledge that wasn't easy to get a hold of. I mean, you got to keep in mind, this is back in the day when you wanted to know something, you'd ride your bicycle to the library and look it up in the encyclopedia.
Or you would call the Nintendo hotline for $2.99 a minute.
Never. No, I would ride my bicycle to the encyclopedia and go read it. I can't find Double Dragon 2 in the encyclopedias. It's an encyclopedia, and you have to leave.
I checked World Book and Collier's.
You have Encarta online?
Oh, God.
So yeah, it was, cheats were just a part of it.
Right.
People would, they would assume you used cheats if you needed them, and if you didn't, you didn't. And if you didn't, and there was one that would have made it easier, then what are you, dumb? Use the cheat. What do you want to? It's like putting your tape in the VCR with your eyes closed. Why? Open your eyes. You do it right.
Right. And on that note, sharing them was a common activity. Anytime that you met up with the other kids on the playground or the other guys at wherever it was that you were meeting up with other people that played video games, you would tell each other the cheat codes that you knew, and you would find out who learned what cheat code from where, and do you already have that magazine? And anytime that you would rent a game, it was pretty common to find some torn up piece of paper with like 30 cheat codes sloppily scribbled on there. And so it was just a rite of passage to like, oh, how did you get that cheat? Oh, I found it this way.
Right. Over time, with the advent of online gaming, cheaters started to kind of be singled out and viewed more negatively, with good reason in the case of online games.
Right.
But even in the case of offline competitive games, cheating was kind of generally frowned upon.
Right. Yeah. Even back in the 80s and 90s, if it was competitive, nobody really wanted you to be cheating.
Right.
Obviously. Like it's one thing if it's just you and your friends in your bedroom playing some games, but if you're playing in an arcade and some asshole keeps choosing Cyber Akuma over and over again, no one's gonna like that kid.
No. And then obviously for accessibility, cheat codes provide accessibility options for those without the physical dexterity, the skill, the time investment, or whatever else necessary to complete or progress in a game that they paid money for.
Right. And the older I get, the less of all of those things I have. So
it is their experience to legitimately have in whatever way they want, as long as they are harming no one else's fun, internet. And it also gives an easy way to restore progress in the event of a save file failure. In early games, it allows someone to practice later areas without having to replay easier areas over and over. And for a lot of games, it increased replayability. Like, I played, has to be triple-digit hours of Mega Man X, and a lot of it was because I could put in cheat codes to kind of jump around to different spots in the game. I didn't have to play it end to end.
I distinctly remember that I had already put down the original Super Mario Brothers and not touched it for years until we rented a Game Genie. And I was like, oh, I can make Mario jump taller than the entire screen. Oh, I have to try that. That sounds dumb. I have to see it.
And it's important to keep in mind that we do lose sight of it, but the reason most people play games is to have fun.
What?
Have what? And cheat codes enhance the fun of the game a lot of the time. Sometimes it's more fun just having it be a little bit easier.
Right.
Other times it's more fun to explode Mario into the stratosphere and have to turn the game off because he never came back down.
Yeah. That is
However
that
you
is
want to
pretty
have
fun.
your fun.
Right.
Have it.
Yeah, definitely.
As far as legacy, it's kind of hard to talk about the whole legacy of cheat codes.
We just did though.
That's all of them. In a general sense, the transition to heavy online and achievement and trophy-based gaming has really pushed cheating out a bit. Because even though we're saying, offline games, it doesn't matter. When you're dealing with achievement and trophy systems, all of a sudden it becomes this kind of weird gray area where it's like some people do legitimately compete with friends over achievement scores.
Fortunately, Yoko Taro didn't give a shit about that in Nier Automata. He was just like, fuck it, have all the trophies.
So, it's kind of been pushed out a little bit, and despite a decline in mainstream games, cheat codes have still become a part of gaming history. They're celebrated right along with the games they came from. You see games like Doom Eternal is really big on celebrating its own cheat codes. Some companies have also started to embrace cheating as a way to experience games that might be otherwise dated or unplayable, like Final Fantasy 7 and 9. I almost called them remakes. Final Fantasy 7 and 9
re-releases,
redos, introduce fast forward and cheat
Final Fantasy 8
modes.
did as well.
I didn't play that one because why would I? But yeah, they introduced cheat codes. Nintendo started adding SP versions of NES ROMs, which it's a wonderful way to experience these games because they give you context. They say, hey, very few people experience this part of this game. Let us show it to you in a way that would normally only be possible with a debug menu or a Game Genie.
Or years of practice.
So you see it a little bit more. I wish I saw it more often in things like retro game compilations and stuff. Just actual, not just save states or fast forward or rewind, actual cheats that do stuff.
Yeah, something that either lets you get to somewhere you might not otherwise get, or lets you skip some of the grind or something.
Yeah. So as far as final thoughts, cheating is good. Online cheating is bad.
Cheating at video games is good. Do not cheat on your significant other.
If you want to limit yourself, that's fine. No, cheating in non-competitive games is good. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's
if
fun.
you're not, maybe if you're a younger person and you grew up with this mentality of like cheating is bad, please go cheat. Cheating is fun.
Check it
it's
out.
your world. Enjoy it how you want.
Yeah, it's silly and goofy and dumb, and you should give it a shot. It's more fun than you think it is.
I do hope more companies kind of recognize the legacy and impact that cheating has had on video games beyond just monetizing basically cheat codes as DLC and suing hackers and online cheat companies into oblivion. Like, let's see some actual respect and fun paid toward cheating. Doom Eternal, again, is probably just because I've played it recently, is a great example where you unlock cheats that do cool things.
Yeah.
So go cheat. It's good, and we like it. And we also like our patrons who are awesome and probably also cheat
Justin,
at games.
real quick.
Yes.
So where did we get these patrons?
The internet.
Through our Patreon?
Yeah.
And how do you get to that?
Well, it's patreon.com/retro warriors. Okay. Well, https://
But what does it get you?
You get uncut episodes and Talking Wizards and the other show we do and lots of fun things. And we want to thank the following people for making this specific episode possible. We asked them and they said, do this. We didn't actually ask them. We don't do requests.
Yeah.
But they made this show possible, starting with A Random Banana.
And a Marlian.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be? Believe. And then it cuts off.
Aw.
So, yeah.
You were almost the greatest American hero. And then
Just
it cut
about.
off. And then we have Burger Champ.
Chris Hickson.
David Zweihel.
Eric G.
I probably butchered that, and I'm sorry. Grady Haynes.
Jacob Zagella.
And Justin made me buy 2 CRTs.
I did not make you. I said you are fired if you don't.
Oh, my bad.
It was
Sorry.
your decision to do it. Those are all the wonderful patrons that made the show possible. And thank you to all of our patrons for making everything possible, for paying all the bills.
Yeah.
And just being wonderful people. And
Indeed.
you can hang out with us on Discord. And
Yes.
we hope that you do. And you can listen to Saturn talk about Dragon Quest and me talk about
Bad
He-Man
dudes.
toys or VHS tapes or
Or
whatever I feel like that week.
Whatever your hobby du jour is.
Yeah, whatever I've transitioned to that week. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always,
Let us
cling
cling
together.
together.